Carolyn Doobie here. What's the play for today? Well, today I'm paint pouring. Now, when you do paint pouring, do you have to have a plan for how you add the paint to the canvas, or can you put it on randomly? Well, the answer there is yes to both. You can have a plan and you can put it on randomly. Now, I'm going for the adventure way today. I have got a bunch of little remnants of paint and cups from another pour that I was doing, and my goal here is to use all those up. So I'm just going to start putting it all on the canvas. Now, by the way, feel free to laugh at me about this because the goal here was to use up all those little cups of paint, and guess what? There was one that I didn't use up at all. I was so wrapped up in the canvas that I completely forgot to check, did I actually use all the paint in the cups? Oh well, guess what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna make another one after this. So the adventure of pouring this canvas begins. I'm trying to use up all the bits of paint in these cups, trying to get every last little drop of a wonderful color out of there. Except for that one. That one I think I'm going to come back to, and I never do in this entire video. So, oops, yep, that's what gets me onto the next canvas. Since I don't have a plan, that means I can do whatever I want on here. So whatever colors I want to bring in, there's a little bit of pink in there, but not nearly enough for me. I definitely want more color on here. I've used up the yellow and the pink in the cup, but never fear, I have reinforcements. I have jars of this stuff that are mixed up. I mix them up in these canning jars because, well, they have lids to them. They're easy to get, these jars. They're not very expensive, and because they've got lids, I can mix this stuff up in a larger quantity. That way it's ready to go whenever I need it, so I don't have to prep them each time. Now, if you've never done paint pouring and you're wondering, what do you have to do to prep the paint? Well, basically, you mix the pouring medium in with it. There are lots of different ways to mix it in. There are lots of different brands. In this video, these happen to have been mixed in with Liquitex pouring medium. And what I found is whatever medium I'm using to do this, I actually use the same ratio and mix them up the exact same way. Now, since the mixing of the paint wasn't on this video, if you want to see how I go about doing that, I've got a video that I made earlier, and I'll link down below for you, that is everything you need to know to make your first pour. And how I mix the paint in there, it's the same thing that I did for these. I just happen to use a different kind of pouring medium. But again, I keep it simple. The ratio is really the same for me, no matter what kind of pouring medium that I'm using. Now, that palette knife that I'm using is mixing the colors around, and it's also making sure that the entire canvas is covered. I'm also nudging that paint right over the edge. I love the look when the color wraps and drips around the edge, and sometimes I need to give it a little help. Now, the palette knife was a little help. Tipping the canvas like this, that's a lot of help using good old gravity. It is pulling things, stretching out things, creating new shapes and movement within the paint. Now, I already had the canvas covered in paint, and for the most part, it was going around the sides. So why do I keep playing around with this? Why do I keep moving that color? Because it's just so much fun, because I like seeing how this moves and shifts. That's really the main reason that I do that. Now, even with all the paint that's gone over the edges, there is still some areas that actually don't have a lot of paint covering them. The corners, that little bit there. So that's where I'm bringing in a little more paint. And then fancy tools like your fingers help kind of blend things around. I'm also going to wipe the under drippings, the edge down there, and then I'm going to scoop it up and put it on the sides anywhere, or even on the top. Just drip it right up there. Anywhere that I can move that paint to fill in any gaps. Now there's color, there's rainbow happening here, and I don't want to waste a single drop of it. So that's why I will scoop it up and fill up the sides. And also too, the stuff that's dripping into the box, that's not going to get wasted either. Because in the bottom of the box, I have a Teflon mat, so that when the paint down there completely dries, I'll be able to pull it off like one big beautiful acrylic skin. Once I'm all done moving the color around and touching up the sides just a little bit, I'm going to let it drip for about 20 to 30 minutes. I sped up the camera so that you can see what it's like as that color shifts and moves just a little bit. It's kind of like watching a Polaroid develop. For those of us that remember when those were such a huge deal, to actually wait that minute to see the picture emerge, that's kind of what watching the paint pouring right now is for me. Once I've given it that 20-30 minutes to do its dripping there into the box, so that way there isn't a mess anywhere, then I want to move it to a drying rack. And I move it to a drying rack so that nothing is touching the edges of the canvas while it dries. And what is this fancy drying rack? Yeah, I've glued 4 plastic little Dixie cups to a piece of cardboard. That's my fancy drying rack. Now, how this stuff is all set up so that it's simple and easy to make a pour, that's all in that video I mentioned earlier, and I'll have that link down below for you if you're interested in getting started making paint pouring. Well, thanks so much for joining me for today's play. If you've been enjoying this video, I'd so appreciate it if you gave it a thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more play, hit that subscribe button. That way you'll know as soon as I have a new video out. Thanks so much for letting me be a part of your colorful journey.